The Supreme Court has decided that it will, in fact, hear the case involving Trump claiming that presidential immunity prevents him from being prosecuted by special counsel Jack Smith in the election interference case. Now, this is a big win for Trump already, and I'll explain why. But just to get you caught up on what's been transpiring, Trump's defense, a big argument we've heard from him and his legal team, is that he should not be prosecuted for his involvement in January 6th, for his involvement in the fake elector scheme, because he was president after all, and presidents enjoy immunity.
Trump's immunity case at the end of April. The decision's expected in June. This will put case at the end of April. The decision's expected in June. This will put Jack Smith's January 6th case.
What Jack Smith had hoped would be a trial starting March 4th. That's clearly not happening. We weren't sure whether the Supreme Court would get involved or not because the D.C. Circuit, which is that appellate level just before the Supreme Court, had a very lengthy, detailed decision saying that the immunity case would not be a winner for President Trump. They gave him a big loss. So they went to the Supreme Court and asked for a stay. What the court did was go beyond that, not only stay the case, but say we're actually going to hear it. We're told that briefing will happen in the next few weeks. They will likely hear this case the week of April 22nd. That means that from that point on, we wait. And normally these big decisions come at the end of June. This one has been expedited, though, so it may come ahead of that. But until then, that lower court is on hold. Jack Smith cannot proceed at all with any of this January 6th case against the former president. So we'll wait to see how the arguments go. But remember, once the Supreme Court makes ultimately its decision in this case, then that trial court unpauses, where Judge Chutkan has had the entire thing on pause. I would imagine the Trump team is going to argue at that point, if he loses on the immunity issue, that they need several weeks, if not a couple of months, before they can even begin to think about restarting the case, which would then throw it probably to late summer, early fall. And all of this, of course, right in the middle of the election.
Supreme Court. So, Jessica, let's say the court hears this in April, as they have said, and they decide that President Trump is not immune. What happens then?
Exactly what Jan says. Then this trial can continue. Exactly as she said, this is the type of case that I'm going to teach. In fact, I just made room for it in my syllabus. And that's because this is the type of case that the Supreme Court does look at. It's a big constitutional question. It's a matter of first impression because we've never been here before. We've never had a president who was criminally charged. And they're asking a fairly straightforward question. Does a president enjoy absolute immunity from criminal prosecution based on official acts? I expect that they will uphold what the D.C. Circuit said. That was a detailed 57-page opinion. They really went through all of the former president's arguments, specifically the argument that trying him would violate the separation of powers, and the argument that you would first have to be impeached by the House and then convicted in the Senate. They explained why, in their view, those arguments hold no water, why there's no constitutional basis. I expect that the Supreme Court will come to the same conclusion, but exactly as Jan says, this is the type of case that screams out for Supreme Court resolution.
It's an excellent point, Jessica, just to button that up, Jan, but does that mean there will be a trial in an election year of Donald Trump, who looks like he will be the Republican nominee?
I think that's going to be up to the Justice Department. I mean, I think the court could have an opinion by the end of June, early July. Then that would pave the way for the trial judge here to set another trial date. But remember, the Republican National Convention is in the middle of July. And so I think that's a question for the Justice Department. Are they really going to try who appears to be the Republican nominee that close to the election when they waited 30 months to file charges in this case?
That historic hearing showed that one voice supported by the American people can set off an earthquake and a reckoning and help save our country. We cannot give up. The life of our country is at stake, and as we all know, the closer President Trump gets to victory, the dirtier the Democrats, their stenographers in the media, and the corrupt prosecutors will get. They will stop at nothing, and I mean nothing, in their attempt to steal this next election. We saw Democrats baselessly impeach President Trump twice, They indicted him 4 times for non-crimes and are trying to bankrupt him and destroy his successful business. In my home state of New York, far-left Democrat New York Attorney General Tish James, who campaigned on going after President Trump, she teamed up with an unethical Democrat Manhattan judge to unconstitutionally impose a nearly $500 million penalty on Trump for the victimless non-crime of paying back banks in full, on time, as agreed, with interest. It's corrupt. And the left has gone so far as to desperately try to remove President Trump from the ballot. Why? Because Joe Biden's approval is in free fall, and they want to take away the vote from you. Meanwhile, you have the corrupt Joe Biden crime family lining their pockets from illegal influence peddling schemes, the Biden crime family. Yet Democrats in the media like to pretend they are saving democracy. But it's the radical left and the Democrats that are destroying democracy.
To have his leadership who's going to stand for the rule of law, that's going to stand for Lady Justice. Lady Justice is supposed to be blind, not political. Lady Justice is supposed to be even-handed, not deciding that a Green New Deal is way more important than a basic rule of law that everybody can see and follow. You got this stupid judge in New York with the $400 million fine. What kind of craziness is this? By the way, to you business owners in New York, come to Florida. If you're a real estate guy in New York, you might want to just come on down to the Sunshine State. We would love to have you. I had to do that quick plug for my state. I love my state now.
Make America Florida!
Said make America Florida. Oh, we're going to do that. I want to make one clear point, because we talk a lot now about a two-tier justice system. We have to acknowledge that in America's history, there has been a two-tier justice system. There is a reason why a lot of black Americans do not trust the justice system. Because there was
former President Trump. A source with direct knowledge tells NBC News that a letter containing a white powder was sent to Manhattan Supreme Court Judge Arthur Engoron at his chambers today. Now, we should say that Engoron's mail is pre-screened every day, so everyone in the office is considered safe. But that news came right after Trump's lawyer said in a nearly 1,800-page motion that he will only be posting a $100 million bond, which is far below the $464 million ordered by Engoron.